All right. We should be live. Welcome in. Plan for today, I'm going to record 3 long-form pieces of content back to back. And this is kind of the behind the scenes of it. So if you want some raw, if you like it raw, this is the rawest it's going to get. We're going to do 3 videos today. First one is going to be on can your home care agency afford paid ads? We're going to run some math. Video 2 is going to be how much you can afford to pay for a home care clients. And 3 is going to be how to calculate your home care agency's referral ceiling. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to start each one with a hook and opener, because that is the most important part of a video. Because if you don't get people to hook, and marketing 101, if you don't get people to pay attention in the first 10 seconds or 3 seconds really, doesn't matter how good your video is, no one's going to watch it. So 80% of my time goes towards my hook and drawing people in. So that's what we're going to start with for video 1, and then we're going to get into the good stuff. If that's cool with you, we'll get started. Honestly, I just got to change my teleprompter really quick, because I don't rely on my memory to take me through the opener and the hook, because it's got to be so precise. Every word matters. But then once we pass that, it's I just free ball it for the most part, and then our editors will make a shorter cut to the main channel. Okay, we just started doing these, so I'm not expecting any comments, but I'll try to look at the comments if there are any that come in. All right, let's get started. Can your home care agency afford paid ads? Let's run the numbers. This calculator shows you how many leads, appointments, and clients you need for paid ads to make financial sense. If we haven't met yet, I'm Ryan Clark, co-founder and... Oops. This is where the edits come in, right? If we haven't met yet, I'm Ryan Clark. My co-founder and I have spent more than $5 million on meta ads, generating over $40 million in revenue. That sounded weird. Let me try that one. Let me just hit that one again. So if you are watching live or happen to watch this live and recording, you can get a pretty good idea of the recording process. If we haven't met yet, I'm Ryan Clark. My co-founder and I have spent more than $5 million on meta ads, generating over $40 million in revenue. Today, I'm the co-owner and CRO of HomeCareGrow.io, where we help more than 70 home care agencies grow. Let's start with the numbers most agencies get wrong. How many clients they actually need to break even. How was that? Good opener? All right, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing that we want to look at is going to be budget. Now, to answer the question, can your home care agency afford paid ads, we first need to think about a minimum effective spend for your ad budget, and are you going to be running them, or are you going to be paying an agency to run them? Now, the reason that's first significant is if you are paying a marketing agency to run them, you have to factor that into your CAC, or your total customer acquisition cost. For this example, since the majority of agencies we work with are doing $3 to $10 million a year, I'm going to assume that if you're watching this, you're in that range and that you're going to pay somebody to do it. The reason being, if you don't have the skill to run paid ads yet, at your level with how much you make, it's not worth learning the skill. It's worth outsourcing it, because you can essentially buy your time back faster. Here's the scenario. If you learn it yourself, it might take you 6 months of trial and error, and that's assuming a fast feedback loop until you get it right. And you spend obviously money and time, so the opportunity cost is lost with time, because it takes you that long to figure it out. And that's like the shortest. Plus the money you spend in that time frame. My partner and I spent over $100,000 of our own money developing this system before we started taking on a paying client. I won't bore you with the story in this video, but my partner and I, our goal was never to start a home care agency. It was cut it, repeat it, rewind, my partner and I never planned on starting a home care marketing agency. Our plan originally was starting a home care agency. So when we were developing the marketing system, it was for us. So anyway, with that in mind, I'm going to assume that you're going to pay somebody to help you with this. And I'm just going to go off really simple numbers. If you have a marketing budget of about $10,000 a month, that means that half of it will go to the agency, the other half will go towards your ads, just as a rough number. Of course, that's going to differ depending on the agency. Now, the next thing to know is, again, how good your ads are, because you can have the market to run, you can have the budget to run ads, but if you don't know what you're doing yet, or you're working with someone that doesn't know what they're doing, your lead cost is going to be variable. It's going to be probably a bit higher. And then your cost per qualified lead will also be higher, which is going to go into all of these numbers below. I'm going to base this off of what we see with our agencies just across the board, but this will vary greatly depending on if you're running a veterans campaign, a private pay campaign, or a Medicaid campaign. Private pay, you're targeting eldest daughter. They're just starting to see the parent start dementia, Alzheimer's, or unsteady on their feet. They're leaving the stove on, missed medications, that sort of thing. But they're early in the buying cycle. Medicaid, we target family caregivers because there's a lot of them, and it's a great offer, and you don't need to staff them personally. They come built in with the caregiver. And then veterans, we target veterans early in the process that a lot of time don't even know they qualify for free home care. And I say free, but we'll say, I know they don't like that word, so we'll say at no expense to them. So cost per qualified lead could range a ton depending on those. The lowest I've seen cost per qualified lead on some campaigns are $20, which of course changed these numbers like dramatically. The highest I've seen it, and that was on like a veterans or Medicaid family caregiver campaign. So you're combining great ads with great market and great offer, right? And then worst case I've seen for private pay at like $150 a lead. So I would say that'd probably be the highest that I've seen. Yeah, that's the highest I've seen. And then cost per lead, just so you know the difference. There's cost per lead and there's cost per qualified lead. Cost per lead is going to be how much it's costing to get that first entry of name, email, phone number. And then you should always have the next step, which is to get somebody qualified. A qualified lead is going to be distinguished by, depends on the campaign, but generally budget, authority, need, and timing. So budget is, do they have the money to pay you? Or do they have a budget? Because a lot of people don't even know what they need in the beginning, which is why budget is one of those weird questions, right? If you ask, this is just a little marketing 101, if you ask like, hey, are you ready to spend $5,000 a month? Or is your budget $5,000 a month? Somebody might say no, even though they have the budget. And the reason they say no is simply because they don't know what they need yet. So money's kind of an interesting qualifier, but we want to make sure they have a budget. And then authorities, so are they a decision maker? Do they have a real need for care, or the person that they're opting in for? And then do they want care now or in the next 6 weeks? Those are the main things. Now, of course, depending on the campaign, there'll be a few extra here and there. What we don't want to do is get too crazy on qualifiers, because if you qualify too heavy, this gets like crazy high. Example being, there was one agency we were talking to that wanted all of these qualifiers, which we don't do custom qualifiers anymore because we can't guarantee a result. And then people are upset because, hey, it didn't work, but we told them it wouldn't work. So a custom qualifier might be like, all right, are you looking for a minimum 30 hours of care, right? Or 20 hours of care? The reason that is a bad qualifier, in my opinion, is because people don't know what they need yet. So if they say, yeah, I don't need it, like I need 10, but through the sales process, you can actually help diagnose that, like, hey, based on what you're telling me, it sounds like you actually need 25. And then this person who otherwise would not have become qualified in that funnel gets started on 25 hours of care. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so once we have these numbers in place, let's just say it's 100. Let's go to client numbers. So this is going to be pretty variable depending on the agency and depending on who you're targeting. There's another video that I've made just recently, which you might want to watch if you haven't, that talks about how to find your most valuable client, whether it be Medicaid, private pay, or veterans. Now, if you can only accept one of those payer types, hey, you found it, very easy. But you want to be choosing the one that's going to pay the most and stay the longest, so that your ROI has the highest potential in a paid ads campaign. So let's go off of veterans, because veterans is kind of what I see as the big front runner here. But we'll run a couple different scenarios, actually. We'll run through a veterans first, then we'll do private pay, or then we'll do Medicaid, then we'll do private pay. So we'll be good. All right, so veterans, what we see across the board is usually 3 years at the minimum, people stay. Actually, you know what? Let's reverse it. Let's go private pay first. We'll go lowest numbers into highest. I think that's a better frame for the video, especially to the editor if you're watching. Well, actually, of course you're watching. Okay, so starting with private pay, typically what we're seeing for the avatar that is just starting to have their parent dementia, Alzheimer's, like I mentioned before, we're usually seeing at the lowest 6 months for this avatar, but usually a bit higher, usually 1 to 3 years. Because when you, and this is just a little note, when you're calculating this, if you haven't calculated it yet, you want to make sure that you segment your average client tenure by referral source. So if you are getting referrals from a hospital that is essentially discharging a patient and they only need you for 3 weeks, and that's clumping in to your data for this avatar, it's always going to skew lower. What we want to do is only put people in there who are just at the beginning of starting Alzheimer's dementia, where they found you organically. The reason for that, again, is because if you are putting a bunch of people that are only needed you for 3 weeks anyway and they churn out, you will always spend less than you otherwise could in ads, because you don't think the client is as valuable as they actually are. So I'm just going to say 1 year. Hourly rate is hugely variable depending on the agency. Let's just put in 36. Hours per client per week, I'm going to put 15, which I think is pretty low compared to with the agencies that I've talked to. Typically what I hear is people start 10 to 20 hours a week, and then it just ramps up over that time. Now, of course, if clients stay for 2 years or 3 years, that greatly changes LTV per client, which, right, lifetime value per client, that's just revenue per client when they've run their full course on average. But we're going to say 1 year, 15 hours, which is pretty conservative. We'll ramp it up to 20 because, again, you know this, but typically 20% of clients we're seeing turn into those 24/7 cases. So they greatly bring numbers up, typically to an average client of hours per week of like 25 to 30. But we're going to keep this conservative. And then gross profit on that. Private pay, I'm usually seeing the lowest is 40%. So if you're lower than that, you should probably improve that. But just so you know, for these numbers, gross profit, I'm just calculating, so what you get paid minus cost of goods sold. So in this case, the caregiver, you can do that loaded or unloaded. Typically, I think the lowest I've seen loaded was like 35% gross margins on private pay. But typically it's like 40, 50. I've even seen like 55%. But we'll just say 40. So that would put LTV per client at about $37,000, about $15,000 LTGP per client, which means lifetime gross profit per client. It's super important to know these two numbers because you don't want to make decisions just off of revenue. You want to make them off gross profit because that's telling you more about the health of your business, especially when it comes to advertising, or not the health of necessarily your business. It could, but I'll say health of the advertising campaign, right? You always want to make sure that, and I'll go over this in a second, the highest allowable LTGP to CAC, so lifetime gross profit per customer, divided or ratio to how much it's costing to acquire a customer, should be 3. That is the lowest, which means for every dollar you put into an advertising campaign, you should make $3 back in gross profit once they've run their course. Never a dollar less. If it's less, you need to fix some things. But the target is usually 9. If you're more than 9, you're crushing it. So let's go through the funnel math first. So if you're getting, if you're spending $5,000 in ads and you're getting $100 per qualified lead, so budget, authority, need, timing, service area, that means that, and they're $50 lead, that means roughly You spend $5,000, you'll get 100 leads. Of those 100, you'll get about 50 qualified leads. Cool. Of those 50 qualified leads, this is a conservative estimate that we're seeing. Of course, this is going to differ depending on the campaign, but generally about 50% of the people that you connect with or that become qualified leads you connect with. Now, this has a lot of assumptions, and hopefully if you've been consuming other content, a lot of this sounds familiar. This is under the assumption that you and your team are reaching out within 5 minutes, 95% of the time, speed and availability, 7 days a week, at least 10 hours a day. Ooh, balloons. I'll say that again without the balloons for the real edit. So if you're getting 100 leads, about 50% in this case become qualified. 50% of those, so 50% of your qualified leads get connected with. Now, this is under the assumption that number one, you are reaching out to them within 5 minutes of them becoming a qualified lead, so you getting notified. Number two is availability. That happening within 7 hours a day. No, that happening. The second is availability. I'm confusing my own thoughts. The second is availability. You hitting them 7 days a week, at least 10 hours a day. So about 50% of them should become qualified. 50% you should connect with. Now from there, about 35% will get it to the in-home assessment. So these are just based on monthly numbers, right? Now, this is going to come down to you. I will say this number is usually higher. So say this is like 50%. Close rate, I'm usually seeing, depending on the campaign, if it's private pay, this is a bit lower, maybe like 50%. The reason it's marked 90% here is based on veterans and Medicaid. So veterans and Medicaid, once you get like an authorization letter, not the authorization letter, once you get the physician letter, like you're pretty much good to go. The only reason they don't make it past that point is like they die, very rarely happens. So we just say 90% of the time for Medicaid and veterans, but yeah, we're talking private pay. So instead, let's go for this. This would be more accurate. Now these numbers are going to vary, but 50% of the people that hit that in-home assessment or that you connect with will schedule an in-home assessment. Now, this is under a huge assumption. The majority of home care agencies that I've talked to, and I've talked to several hundred over the last 4 to 5 months, typically do not have a cold traffic process in place. Now, what does that mean? A cold traffic sales process is a process that can take someone that has no idea who you are, and starting with that first conversation, you can pull out enough pain to get them to take the next step. And then it also has a in-home assessment process, or another part of the sales process, that gets them to buy and creates urgency and scarcity so that you influence them and they make the decision, right? What the majority of home care agencies are used to doing is closing warm traffic, which is referrals for people that are in a huge amount of pain that need to make a decision now. So they're a way higher quality lead. The whole reason that we do something like this, where we're hitting cold traffic or qualified cold traffic, is because you've exhausted your warm traffic. So the only time to go cold is when you've exhausted warm, which is the majority of agencies we work with, right? They're doing 3 to 10 million a year, but they're stuck. I don't know how to break through this. So that's where we come in, right? Now, if you're not at your referral ceiling and you're still like growing a ton and happy with that growth rate, don't complicate your business with paid ads yet. Do it when you need it, because there is a learning curve. So once you have this process in place, so just so you're familiar with what it would look like, you call the lead. You're of course doing discovery to figure out what they need, who needs it, that sort of thing. But during discovery, it is extremely important to pull out the pain. Human beings, regardless of where they are on the planet, make decisions for 2 reasons: to go towards pleasure or to get out of pain. If you want somebody to make a decision, take the next step, you have to take all the pain they're in, amplify it through questions, and then also future pace that pain so that they relate not making a decision to move forward to go to the next step, which is booking an in-home assessment, to more pain. Therefore, they take the next step to get out of pain. That is the simplest way to that I can say you can every agency can do to improve their cold traffic sales process to get more of these leads to convert. Because if you don't do that and you use a warm traffic process for cold traffic, then you will then agencies that do that will blame their leads, and they'll never be able to get past their referral revenue ceiling. Okay, let's keep going. And then from there, it's cold traffic. So if you're closing 90% cold warm traffic, that's awesome. But cold traffic, again, there's less urgency. There's less pain to get them to go to the next step. So because of that, close rate is going to be way lower. If you're closing 90% of warm, good for you. That's awesome. You're probably going to be closing like 30 to 50% of, or 30 to 70% of the in-home assessments you do for cold traffic. And that's okay. Because again, let's look at the numbers, right? Even in this scenario, your customer acquisition costs, including what you're paying the marketer in this case, so it would just be $10,000 divided by 6, is $1,600. Which means that for you to break even, you essentially need to be you need to be running your campaigns for at least, in this case, 45 days. Now, we can model a few different cases, but your LTGP to CAC, 3-to-1. Where's my divided by 3? No, that number's not right. This should be a flat number. All right, we got to change one of these numbers here. This obviously won't be in the final edit. I don't know why that's there. All right, so highest LTGP to CAC. Oh wait, no, that is correct. Man, this is what happens when you've been working since 4 a.m. and then also had like a super high intensity workout today. I'm like, man, why this number should be a 3-to-1 number? But no, okay, makes sense. So highest LTGP to CAC that you can reasonably hit is, in this case, $4,992. This is the highest this number should get. So let's just say this campaign looked like this. This would not be profitable. Technically it is, but it's not as good as it could be, right? This is not where we want to be. So let's put this in. These are just labeled a little funny. And that's what confused me. So we're going to call this highest allowable LTGP to CAC. So your highest allowable LTGP to CAC would be for about $5,000, and that's based on this. So your customer acquisition cost, including what you're paying a marketer, is $6,600 in this example. It's too high. So the break even for you is probably somewhere around this, where your LTGP to CAC is 3-to-1, which means that for every $3 you put towards a campaign, you're making $1 back. Now, of course, this is back of napkin math, but just so you have a starting point. Now, the break even on this is about 6.6 months, right? So the whole reason I built this calculator, and if you want to copy this calculator, let me know, maybe I can drop it below this video so you can play with it. But the whole reason I built this is so that you have a realistic expectation for when you can see your return from what you're spending, and then also so that you can safely spend without losing money. And all of these campaigns you should judge on a roughly 6-week timeline. Now, what does that mean? It means if you do this for 1 month and your numbers look like this, don't pull the plug, because your ads have only been running for 30 days. There's a 45-day on average for cold traffic conversion process, or sales cash conversion cycle. So don't turn off your ads with this. Instead, think about, okay, I need to have at least 3 months cushion to float whatever I'm going to spend. So in this case, if it's $10,000 a month, you need to be okay not making $1 back for 90 days. So you need to be ready to spend $30,000 without getting $1 back. Now, with that in mind, past the 6-week mark, That's where you're going to see the closes start rolling in. Now, can they come in sooner? Sure, but I'd rather set you up for an expectation that is worse, and then better things happen. So you have to base it on the leads you get, and then 45 days later, what's happened. So here's what I mean. Let's say you run the campaign for 8 weeks. You're not judging the 8 weeks of, let's say you're at 8 weeks in, you've got 200 leads, 100 qualified leads, 50% again have been connected with. You've had, at this point, a lot of them move to in-home assessment. So let's say you've had 35%, and you've closed let's say 1 or 2, right? It's easy to look at this campaign and say, oh my God, it's broken, it doesn't work. But again, the time horizon's too slow. What you would have to do is just base the effectiveness on the campaign of the leads that have had 45 days to germinate, or 6 weeks. So that means if you run if you run a campaign for 8 weeks, so that means if you run a campaign for 8 weeks, that you can only judge the first 2 weeks in this process. So that would mean that if you've gotten 100 leads your first month, so in 2 weeks you'd get 25, then you'd get 25 qualified, 13 lead connected, 4 in-home assessments, and then let's say you still closed your 1. This is what your numbers actually look like. Now, again, is that still amazing? Well, or is that amazing? No, but people are still going. Is it terrible? Also no. Right? Because we look at these numbers and they still have time. Now, let's say you've closed 2. Well, if you've closed 2 in an 8-week period, you've gotten 50 leads, 25 qualified leads, you've closed 2 with still more that can move over the line. You're closing 9%. Is it, again, still amazing? No, it's not amazing. But is it profitable? Yes, it is. If you maintain these numbers of at least 9% of qualified leads closed, right? Because your highest allowable CAC is 5,000 essentially based on these numbers. And your customer acquisition cost is lower than that, which means it'll take you 6.3 months to break even, and your LTGP to CAC is about 3.3, which is acceptable. The lowest we want is 3, which means, again, for every dollar you put in, you get about $3.3 back gross profit into your pocket. So total revenue return on this would be 8.2, 3.3. What you really have to do is, and this is why it doesn't happen overnight, if you're doing a 16-week campaign, which is generally what we do with the clients we work with, 16-week campaign, you need to look at all your math. Let's say you get 400 leads, 200 qualified, and this is what your numbers look like roughly. Let's just say there were so. Let's go back. 4, 2, 1, 3, 3. This number's incorrect. I'll have to workshop that number based on this. But in any case, sorry, I know why. These numbers have to be higher because we're basing it off of 16 weeks. So that would mean that your total marketing spend would be 40, and ad spend would be 20. Yeah, okay. I figured it out. I'm a sharp cookie. All right, so you'd have to base it off of 16 weeks. This would be your 16 weeks. And then past your 16 weeks, you would need to go to 20 because you need to add 6 weeks on for the 45-day sales cycle. So that would be about 22 weeks. So by the 22-week mark, can you judge a 16-week campaign? And if these were the numbers, you'd be crushing it. Now, a lot of people may not be happy with 9% of clients closed, right? Because they're used to such a high percentage, right? You're used to, getting 50% of your warm traffic to close, but this is a different game. You have to be okay with a lower percentage of leads closing and more work on your sales team to get people over the line. That's normal for cold traffic, right? Closing anywhere from 10 to 15% is great. Now, let's look at actually the lowest it could be and you still make money. Well, the lowest it could be where you still make money is like 2%. But you're not running, you don't want to do all this work for like spending $1 and making back 30 cents. So the lowest acceptable, in my opinion, is 3 to 1 for LTGP to CAC or lifetime gross profit to CAC. So that would put you at 23, about 23%. So this is what's crazy, and I really want to impress this upon you. You have to judge your marketing campaign off of numbers, not off of feelings. If you're used to closing cold traffic, it is a big ego hit if you're only closing 4% of leads. But based on these numbers, it's still super profitable because you're getting 400 leads, you're getting 200 qualified, you're getting 8 clients. These 8 clients pay you $37,000 over the 1 year. That's $300,000 of new revenue. That's $120,000 of gross profit that you've paid $40,000 to get. One more time. In a 22-week period, right, because you ran your 16 weeks and then you had 6 weeks after, you paid $40,000 to get gross profit $120,000 once everyone's run their course over the year. That's like a 300% return, 3 to 1, right? It's better than the market. So it is so important to know your numbers so that you can make decisions based on money or based on math, not emotions. Okay? Let's run another example. And really quick, I'll say, yeah, that's fine. That's good. All right, good. We're all set. Let's run another example because that is actually the lowest lowest return campaign that we're seeing with our agencies. In order, they're private pay, Medicaid, and then veterans. So let's do a Medicaid family caregiver example so we can get a better idea of what is more expected. And for now, I'm going to keep everything as the 1 month, but we just have to keep in mind the timeline required to see this through. There has to be at least a 6-week period from when you're judging the leads that you got, especially for veterans and Medicaid, because there's usually a 30 to 45 day authorization process. Okay, so let's go through this. Let's do a Medicaid. So Medicaid average, I'm gonna say is maybe like 30-ish, 40, depending on the area, of course. And then cost per lead might be 10, super low, but qualified lead might be 40. Now, average tenure we're usually seeing at the 3-year mark, or minimum 3-year mark. I mean, family caregivers, they don't want to stop being paid. So as long as you help keep them compliant, they log their hours, you're good. We have agencies that this goes all the way up to like 72 months or 84 months, right? 6-7 years. But let's just go like super conservative and say 3. Hourly rate on this, we're gonna say it's pretty low. We're gonna go with 20. If you're in Texas, it's like 1750. If you're in other places like Oregon, that you're making bank. You're doing like 42, which is wild. Hours per client per week, 20 sounds about good. And then gross profit on that is, we're going to say, is a bit lower, right? Now, obviously, this is going to depend on your agency, but 20% is usually what I'm seeing. Now, obviously, that changes LTV and LTGP per client. So we're just going to want to look at all these. So LTV, that puts it at about 62,400. LTGP per client is about 12,500, give or take, per new client we bring in. Now, the math on this usually is more favorable than a private pay campaign. Why? The reason is because it is easier to close a free service. Now, again, I know a lot of agency owners and clients alike that you bring on don't like the word free. But the government, however you want to phrase it, they're not paying anything. And it's easier to sell a service that they do not have to pay out of their own pocket. Prove me wrong. So because of that, the main hurdle that you need to overcome with cold traffic that don't know who you are yet, giving these offers where essentially it's no money to them, but the government pays, is they think it's a scam. So your script has to be very good at calling out, hey, totally can appreciate, what this looks like. Here's why it's legit, right? And you're doing that in a way that comes across professional, but at the same time helps them move to the next step. You still need to get pain in the sales process because, it sounds crazy, but some of these people aren't willing, like they're so, well, this is getting into like the buying behavior of these people, but I'll just say you have to make the process as easy as possible for them. And even so, even though it's free, you'll still not get everybody over the line. You would think you close like 100% of these people because it's free to them, but you don't. And a lot of it comes down to the work that they have to do. So the more that your agency can do to help them get over the line and reduce the time delay and also the effort and sacrifice on their part, the higher percentage of leads you'll close. So we're going to base this off of, again, very conservative numbers. The highest I've seen this go is like 31% of total qualified leads to close, but I'd rather just go with conservative. So 50% in a monthly basis become qualified once they've run their course, 35% in-home assessment, and that goes for doctor, physician letter as well, and then 90% usually turn into those clients. So that means that for a average Medicaid family caregiver, you'd be paying, again, including what you're paying your agency to run the ads, about $1,270 per acquisition. The break-even would be about 6.3 months, and your highest allowable CAC would be $4,160. Total revenue from essentially a month, once people run their course over 3 years, is about $491,000 of new revenue. Gross profit, about $100,000. So your LTGP to CAC is about 9-1. Total revenue return is about 49-1, right? 49.1 to 1. So just quick context, in this example, you put $1 in. Now this is the kicker with home care, is it takes a super long time to get your money back. But when you get it back, you're making a lot back. A lot. So in this case, you would need to float 6 months at this, well, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what you're paying, 6 months of ad spend to be able to, or marketing budget to be able to start to become profitable. Cool. And then if you looked at a 16-week period, let's just put this over that time. So as you can see, break even stays about the same, but you get roughly 32 clients in that time frame, right? Resulting from a 16-week campaign. Once the 3 years are complete, everyone's signed up and run their course, about $2 million in new revenue and about $400,000 in gross profit from $40,000 invested. Like, again, we look at returns in the market. It's like people brag about getting a 25% return in the market. If you're getting now that's the kicker though. Again, it's taking you 3 years to get to squeeze all the value out of these clients. But that's where understanding your numbers is super helpful. So hopefully this is helpful. If this is helpful, drop a like on the video, drop a comment, let me know it's helpful. If you don't like it, hold your peace. No, I'm just kidding. You can let me know too. I can't take the criticism. Don't tell me. Okay. So we've done Medicaid. We've done private pay. Let's look at a veterans example. So the thing I like about veterans, and usually why it is the highest return out of any of our campaigns, is because they stay as long as Medicaid family caregivers and they pay like private pay. That's why, actually, those two reasons. So if we're looking at these numbers, we have agencies like Tim in Michigan, where I believe his numbers are like 4.5 years, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I talked to him about for the average vet. But we'll just say 3 years. Hourly rate on that, they pay like private pay. It's pretty sweet. I mean, we'll just say 36 would be conservative. I've seen that as high as 50 something. And then hours per week, this is, again, the only more downside. It's maybe like 10 hours. Of course, they can ramp up to more, but we'll just say 10. But the gross profit is usually like sweet. So we're talking about like 50%. Now, again, let's just compare LTV and LTGP compared to Medicaid and veterans for a second. This is veterans, 56,000 LTV, 28,000 LTGP per client. We go back. This was Medicaid. Medicaid was 62,000. So on the surface, it looks better because there's more revenue, but LTGP is actually like half. Crazy. Crazy. Less than half. Jeez. So revenue's lower, lifetime gross profit is twice as high. That's wild. So that's why it's a winner. Okay, let's look at quick math. Here's the crazy thing. We've seen veteran leads very similarly as Medicaid. So that's the other winner. Is Medicaid, private pay, the leads are the most expensive out of any campaign, regardless of the market, like everywhere. Medicaid and veterans, because there's way more of them and because the offer is better in the ad, hey, you might get free home care. Or I know we don't say it like that, but you might qualify for home care at no cost to you. There you go. Then it just creates a huge recipe for success. Because then on a same monthly campaign where you're closing 16%, your customer acquisition cost is about $1,200. Your highest allowable CAC goes through the roof because your LTGP is so high comparatively. So you can actually spend almost double, because your lifetime gross profit is double, on a veterans campaign than you can a Medicaid campaign. Crazy. All dependent on your numbers, right? But that means that the highest you could spend is $9,300. You'd be spending $1,200 in this example. Break even is 2.3 months. Your LTGP to CAC is 22-1 over those 3 years, which means you put $1 into the system and then over 3 years, $22 in gross profit gets spit out back to you. Not revenue. Like revenue, like we said, it's actually lower than Medicaid, but LTGP is, or gross profit return is 22. My God. So you can understand why when we were developing all of this for ourselves, why we were starting a home care agency. Because it's like you look at veterans and we're just like, geez. The thing that really like stopped us, which, you know, looking back, obviously we could have acquired an agency that already had veterans, a veterans contract, but it was like starting our own. It was going to take 3 years to get a veterans contract in Texas, if ever, right? I mean, you know how it is. If you know, you know. So all that to say, you can understand why veterans are like some of the most profitable. I mean, we're talking about 2.3 months payback, 22 to 1 LTGP. I mean, awesome. So let's say over a 16-week period, we're talking about 40K, assuming your budget's, $20,000 a month. I'm sorry, $10,000 a month. And you're getting 400, 200. I mean, over just for marketing on a 16-week campaign, 4 months, even if you turned your ads off, never did anything for the rest of your life for paid ads, you'd be bringing in almost, we'll say $1.7 million in total revenue from it, about $800,000 in total gross profit, 22 to 1. Wild. Again, the only thing is it takes 3 years. So, pretty sweet, pretty good stuff. Let me just check, make sure there's nothing else I want to mention specifically on this video, because I think we're good to go. Yeah, that was about everything. So, let's see. What was my outro for the video? If you would like this calculator, let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to put it in the description below as well, so you can input your data and be able to just safely, not really safely find out. I don't like that outro. Let's say, okay. If you want to run these numbers for your agency, let me know in the comments. I'll also do my best to put it into the description below, so you can run the numbers for your agency, so you can get an idea if it's a good time to start running paid ads, or if you're already running paid ads, are they profitable or not? And as always, if you want our help to do it, feel free to go into the description below, schedule your agency growth call with a member of my team so that we can run your numbers just like this and see if we can help. All right. Woo, let's do it. So that was video 1. We're going to go to video 2, but I drink. So for those of you who don't know, I have a fitness background. And because of that, I drink literally 1 gallon to 2 gallons of water a day, which means that, when you go to the doctor and they're like, hey, how many times do you go to the bathroom a day? And like, if it's more than 9, you should be alarmed. Yeah, I go like 20 times, but maybe not 20, but you get the right idea. So all that to be said, my doctors are concerned, and I'm going to run to the bathroom before we start the next one. and hang tight. Round two. Oof. Shorts are riding up. All right, here we go. Number two. Let's. I think the 2 is actually a pretty fast one. This is also why why I'm choosing to edit these down is like you guys are just seeing, or if you're watching this, you're seeing the edited uncut, which took like 40 minutes. That video will probably be like 15 or 20 minutes. Simply because I tend to over-explain things and include more information than is relevant. All right. What's video 2? Let's fix the teleprompter, and let's go into the hook for video 2. How much can you afford to pay for a home care client? Yeah, I kind of explained this already in my last video. So I guess this might be like a very bite-sized, like 5-minute. Wait, I mean, really, this was answered. Ugh, how much can you pay? Yeah, I think it's just going to be a super targeted, like, video 2. Yeah, it might be like 5 minutes. Okay, here we go. If you don't know your maximum CAC, you don't know whether your ads are working. This calculator, well, my eyes just like bugged out. One more time. If you don't know your maximum CAC, you don't know whether your ads are working. This calculator shows you what you can afford to pay for a new home care client based on your numbers. If we haven't met yet, I'm Ryan Clark. My co-founder and I have spent more than $5 million on Meta ads, generating over $40 million in revenue. Today, I'm the co-owner and CRO of HomeCareGrow.io. We help more than 70 home care agencies grow. The answer depends on 4 numbers: average client tenure, hourly rate, weekly billable hours per client, and gross margin. LTGP divided by CAC equals your advertising efficiency. Editors, LTGP minus CAC, that line, just get rid of it. I don't like it. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so now let's just change the title at the top so that it, oh shoot, I didn't change it. All right, we gotta do that again. Because this question, like this, what you see is going to be in the opener, so like everything has to align with what we're talking about. All right, one more time, baby. You know what comes to mind? The "Hit Me Baby One More Time." Obviously, everyone knows the Britney Spears version, but Jack Black came up with a version with during Kung Fu Panda. And it's like, man, talk about earworm. It is so good. He's got, you know, that like, that raspy voice. Not raspy. I don't know how to explain it. Just go watch it. YouTube, Jack Black, Hit Me Baby One More Time. I might watch it after this. All right. If you don't know your maximum CAC, you don't know whether your ads are working. This calculator shows you what you can afford to pay for a new home care client based on your numbers. If we haven't met yet, I'm Ryan Clark. My co-founder and I have spent more than $5 million on Meta ads, generating over $40 million in revenue. Today, I'm the co-owner and CRO of HomeCareGrow.io, where we help more than 70 home care agencies grow. The answer depends on 4 numbers: average client tenure, hourly rate, The answer depends on 4 numbers: average client tenure, hourly rate, weekly billable hours per client, and gross margin. And then we get into it. So let's look at some math. Let's go off of first. I was just thinking of the process. So let's start with some math. We first have to find out some basic marketing numbers. What are you spending in ads? What are you paying? What are you paying the? Well, my mind's turning to mush. I'm gonna start doing these recording sessions in the morning. All right, let's go again. First, we need some basic marketing numbers. Second, we need to find your numbers based on. Yeah, I'll just take that frame. All right. First, we need to find how much you're spending in marketing per month. Now, I'm assuming if your agency is doing $3 to $10 million a year, that this number is going to be about $10,000 a month, and you're not doing it yourself, which means you're paying a vendor, someone that already has this figured out, so that you don't need to learn the skill. Now, safe numbers are saying $10,000 a month for marketing spend, $5,000 goes towards ad spend. With that in mind, it's going to depend on what campaign you're running. And we'll give 3 examples in this video. You know what? I've already run this. I ran this in the last video. I would literally be saying the same stuff. I think editors, if you're watching, I think what we do is we just take that. So we can have that first video be what it was, which is fine. But potentially, and we'll talk about this, but I think it's going to be second video, that opener, right? That hook, that opener. And then we just start that second video at the part that I start, either at the part that I start talking about that, or it's just a super condensed version of, or it's just a different edit, honestly, of this video, or of that video we just created. So it's like same, whatever it was, 45 minutes worth of content, but it's just a different edit with a different hook, or the same. Here's a really funny one: same edit, different hook, right? Which is actually, as I think about it, probably what it's going to be, where we, again, editor listening, it would be we do same like video, because objectively there's going to be a best video with pacing, chapters, and the elements that make up good long form content, and then we put that out, and then maybe 6 months from now or 3 months from now, I'm gonna sneeze. Whoa, 3 to 6 months from now, we put out the same-ish video with different hook and opener, and then we'll just split test them and see which one does better. So that's possible as well. But with all that being said, let's go to the third video, where we're going to use a different calculator, and we're going to get into calculating referral ceilings. Let's see, how's that look? I just want to fix that on here. There we go. Nice. I'll make it a little tighter. Boom, baby. How's that look? Does it look good for me? It looks good for... Does it look good for you? That's what I meant to say. All right. So this video is going to be about referral. Why do referral only home care agencies stall out? And actually, I created a new title for this. How to calculate your home care agency's referral ceiling. All right. Let's do it. Where am I cut off? Oh no, I can see the whole thing. Oh wow. Wow. I might get rid of this because I think that wastes space. Sick. Now you can see the whole thing. What if I do this? Yeah, that's perfect. All right. Let's do the opener. Let's do the hooker. Let's do the hook. Oh, it's already in the right place. Oh, but now I turned it off. All right. Let's get spicy. Ready to get spicy? Let's go. Are you live? Hey, first comment. Yeah, I'm live. This is really happening. N Willis. N Wills. 1569. We are live. All right, let's keep going. Oh, hey, you're still here. Good to see you. If you have any questions as I'm talking, feel free to answer them. I probably won't answer them as I'm like going in on a thought, but then I'll answer them after between. Okay, let's do it. If referrals are your only growth engine, your agency, it should be a home care agency. If referrals are your only if referrals are your only growth engine, that sounds so weird, growth engine. Why did I write that? I think we're gonna hold for dog. Hold for dog. I remember I was filming a pilot episode of a game show, I guess you could say, a game show that never aired. And one of the things they would always say when we were filming is, hold for, what was it? Hold for noise, hold for whatever, because there'd be like a plane flying over because we were doing everything outside. That's funny. All right. I think we're good. We and then they would just go. So anyway, my dog was probably getting excited that a package arrived. All right. If referrals are your only growth engine, your home care agency has a ceiling. This calculator shows you where that ceiling is and how many clients you need from a second source. If we haven't met yet, I'm Ryan Clark. My co-founder and I have spent more than $5 million on meta ads, generating over $40 million in revenue. Today, I'm the co-owner and CRO of HomeCareGrow.io, where we help more than 70 home care agencies grow. We'll calculate your current referral ceiling. In this video, we'll calculate your current referral ceiling, the revenue gap to your target, and the ad spend and timeline required to close it. I like it. All right. Let's calculate it. So first thing, we need to look at client value, or LTV. So we're going to do this by looking at how many hours per week per client. Let's just base this off of let's go off like veterans, because that's what we're trying to do more and more with. Those are the types of agencies we're trying to bring up more and more of, simply because the ROI is the highest out of any campaign. In order of ROI, if you can accept veterans, do it. If you haven't watched my last video talking about, what's it titled? How much you can afford to pay for a home care client, definitely check that out. Because the returns for a veteran campaign is like 22-1 compared to a Medicaid campaign. And this is LTGP, so lifetime gross profit, not revenue. 22-1 on a veterans campaign versus 12-1 on Medicaid versus 3-1 on private pay. So definitely look at that. So hours per client per week, we're going to base it off of 10. That's what we're seeing for vets. Hourly rate, we'll say is like 38. The reason vets are great is, right, they pay the same as private pay. The gross margins are as high as private pay, and they stay as long as a Medicaid, right? It's great. So that puts LTV per client at about $59,000. Now, we have to know how many new referrals you're getting per month. Now, typically, with the agencies that we're working with, they're doing 3 to 10 million a year. They usually have multiple referral, multiple payer types. They're not just veteran or just private pay or just Medicaid, which if we really wanted to get a complex number, we should actually have these numbers calculated for each payer type. And then that would tell us our true ceiling. where right now this is just based on one payer type. So actually, let's scrap this. Let's go back. Let's do a private pay example, editor, right? Let's do a private pay example. And if you're watching live, the reason for that is someone that can accept a veteran can accept veteran and private pay. So the calculator needs to be more advanced for them. Somebody that accepts private pay a lot of the time can only accept private pay, meaning like their main thing is private pay, so they can only accept private pay. So we'll just use a private pay example, so that way it resonates with more people that are watching the final edit. Hey. So we just did the opener. Calculate your current referral ceiling, the revenue gap to your target, and the ad spend time required to close it. Cool. So first we need to look at the numbers that calculate your LTV per client or lifetime value per client. We're going to base this off a private pay agency. So we're going to say about 20 hours a week per client, being conservative, about $35 an hour. Gross profit, about 50% gross profit, which is just what you pay or what you get paid minus what you pay the caregiver, could be fully loaded. And then the number or how long they stay. So in this case, we're going to say 1 year. Now, I've said this in past videos, but you just want to make sure that when you're getting this data, you want to segment by source. If you have a referral source that you know is only ever going to give you 3-week cases because they're discharged from hospitals, you can't group that in to these types of projections because they will always underestimate your allowable CAC, or highest allowable customer acquisition cost, which means if the numbers are wrong, it may stop you from ever running ads. So, or if they're too conservative, I should say. If your numbers are too conservative, they will stop you from ever running ads. So let's just say these are the numbers, which is pretty normal. $36,000 lifetime value per client. And let's just say you get, I'm going to say 10 referrals a month. Yeah. But if you put 5, you can start to see your ceiling. So here, just, year, weekly billable hours, average revenue run rate, and then the percentage of growth. This is assuming you're starting at 0 and you start this system. Now, of course, when you're starting, usually you grow slower than this because it takes time to build these affiliate relationships, right? These referral partners. But if you were doing this from day one, that's what these numbers would show. So let's just say it's 10, because usually the people that we're talking to, the people we're talking to, the agency owners, are doing anywhere from 3 to 10 million a year, and they're capped. So this number could even probably be like 15, right? But depending on your cap relies greatly on these numbers, and we'll play around with these numbers, and you can see how that changes your projected cap. But market plays a big role, right? Because if you are in a super saturated market, and saturation doesn't mean how many home care agencies are in your market. It means how many home care agencies are in your market compared to how much demand there is for the service. So Florida, even though it may seem like, oh my God, it's super saturated, there's so many agencies. It's like, yeah, but there's also way more demand. So I'm not going to say it totally balances out, but if I'm remembering our data correctly, when I last met with Albert, Florida is not the worst market to advertise in, which you think it would be, right? Because there's a higher concentration of home care agencies. But like I just said. Okay, so we can start playing with these numbers and seeing the ceiling. If you only hold on to a client for 6 months, so we'll do 0.5, right? We can see your revenue ceiling, even with 15 referrals a month, is 3 million. By this going up to a year, it's 6 million. If it was 1.5 years, it'd be 9 million or 9.8 million, right? Now, just by changing the number of referrals per month, obviously change the ceiling as well. But you can play around with these numbers. If you want this calculator to play with, feel free to just drop a comment, let me know. I'll even try to put it in the description below, and you can play with it yourself. So with these numbers, your clients, the number of clients you would have at your ceiling is 120. Your referral ceiling, like total, would be $4.3 million, which you can see year by year, year one growth, right? It's infinite because you started at 0. Next year, 35, then it drops off a cliff, 9%, 3%. And this is usually where we're seeing the agencies we talk to sit, somewhere in the 3 to 10 year time frame. And they've been trying things, haven't worked, right? Weekly billable hours at the ceiling, 2,400. Gross profit at the ceiling per year, based on these numbers, right? 2.1 million. Now, this is where the second engine comes in. And we can look at the charts in a second. But this is where the second engine comes in. So this is going to be completely subjective based on your goals, right? But I'm going to base this off of, again, agencies that we talk to most often. So let's say 6.5 million is their ceiling, and they want to get to 10 is usually a common goal that I hear. So I want to hit 8 figures. So with that 8 figures, it's going to depend on how long it takes you want it to take to hit your target, right? If it's 1 year, obviously it's going to be pretty aggressive with ad spend. If it's 2 years, it's going to be a little bit less. 3 years, 4 years, you can see how this changes. And of course, these numbers are all influenced by how long you stay on, how long it takes you to, how long you keep your average client, right? But anyway, let's go back to this. So $10 million for, just want to make sure it's shown. Yep, $10 million annual revenue. 6 years to hit the target. Let's say 1 year. That means that you must add an additional. So you keep your referrals and add an additional 12.2 clients a month. You need about 274 clients to hit your target. Your gap is about 94 clients. And this is where you need to know your numbers. So this calculator is really if you're already running ads or working with a vendor and understand your CAC. CAC, again, is customer acquisition cost. When you're calculating CAC, you have to include what you're paying the vendor, right? Because that's still money out of pocket. So we're looking at, let's say, 2,500, which is pretty healthy. Your maximum allowable CAC based on these numbers, you always want LTGP to CAC, no lower than 3, which means that for every $1 you put towards ads once they've run their course, which in this case, it's a year, you'll get, in this example, $3.6 back. Which, again, going back to my last video, if you hadn't watched it, or if you have watched it, this will sound familiar. A lot of home care agencies turn off ads too early. And they actually are running profitable campaigns. They just don't think it's working because they're not seeing the return fast enough. But if you are getting an LTGP to CAC of 3, you're just on a longer time horizon, but it's still very profitable. In this example, it's only a year, right? In Medicaid and veteran cases, it's 3 years or more, but the returns are generally higher. So maximal allowable CAC, where I would not spend another $1 generally, 60,000 is in this example 6,000. If these were my true numbers. Yeah, I wouldn't spend more than 6K to acquire a new client. Now, months to break even on this is probably going to be, oh man, how good's my math off the top of my head? What's LTGP? Do I have that written down anywhere? LTGP is just like 18,000. So 18,000 if you're spending, oh man, that's a lot of math. These are 1,000 per client. That means that you're getting, this won't be in the final, and I'm thinking way too much, 1.5K a month in gross profit per client, which means it takes you 4 months to break even. Okay. All right, good. You can see the smoke coming out of my brain. Now, healthy CAC is, right, what did we say? A great CAC is 1,500. Like I generally, in 2000, even 9 to 1 is where we want to target always. If you get more than 9 to 1, you should just be taking out, actually, maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't want people to do it. But if your LTGP to CAC is 9, which means that for every $1 you put in a system, you goes to profit 9, $1 in, 9 out. You should be spending all that you can on ads, assuming these numbers are right. Right? They're not. If you don't know your numbers, then don't do that. Let's actually, this is a pretty short video. Let's go through another example. Let's go through a Medicaid example. So how to calculate your home care referral ceiling, let's say, is 25 hours a week on Medicaid. Hourly rate on that, let's say super low, right? I know the lowest I've seen is 17.5 in Texas. Let's say it's 20. Gross profit on that, let's say super low. Again, 20 and then average client stays minimum, right, 3 years. Family caregiver for Medicaid can stay, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, but we'll just say 3, be conservative. And referrals per month through Medicaid, let's just say is, let's say 10. It's fine. 10 is fine. So for Medicaid, you're going to see usually I'll say less aggressive growth rate, meaning it doesn't, like you can see from here, it ramps, but it takes longer to taper off because people keep staying, right? If they stayed for 6 years, you'll see the same thing. Growth continues because people hold on. All right, cool. So that puts it at $78,000 lifetime value per client. Let's say you're getting 10 referrals a month, which, yeah, sounds about right. Depending on the agency, right? If you're a Medicaid agency and you've capped at 2 to 3 million, and these look like your numbers, then you probably get 3 referrals a month, right? There's an agency we're talking to right now that does about 20 million a year. So I'm assuming, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm assuming their numbers look something like this, right? And now they're stalled. So let's go and say just based on averages for the people we see, because we usually talk to agencies that are doing 3 to 10 million a year and help them break through. So this looks about right. So 3 new client referrals a month, LTV being about $78,000 per client. Clients at the ceiling will be 252. Weekly billable hours at the ceiling will be 6,300. Revenue ceiling, 6 million, 6.5 million, a little higher, you get it. And then gross profit at the ceiling, this is all per year, $1.3 million. So you can see, starting year 1, things explode, keep going, and then taper off greatly. And this is where people are looking for the next thing. And again, the biggest problem that I've seen with agencies that have grown through referrals, which is 99% of them, just being real. Like, no one opens a home care agency that I've seen and does cold traffic out of the gate, or at least, here's the thing, I haven't talked to them because they don't need us. All the agencies I've talked to have grown from referrals. They start running ads. Maybe they haven't run ads yet, but if they had run ads, they run ads and they don't work. And part of that, there's 2 things that go into making paid traffic work for home care agencies. You need the acquisition or the attraction. There's 2 parts. You need lead quality and lead volume. But a lot of home care agencies think this is the only thing. And that's not true. You need this, but you also need sales process and salespeople. Now, you would think that, oh man, these are all people. These leads should respond the same way that referrals do. They don't. That is one of the biggest cardinal mistakes that I see home care agencies believe, is that if I'm not closing more than 10% of my leads, it's bad. It's not. Like, you used to be making a ton of money, assuming that your cost per qualified lead is good. So all this to say, if your revenue target, let's say, is 10 million, and you want to hit that in a year, or let's even say 2 years or 3 years, if it's 3 years, then that means your monthly ad budget needs to be about $11K a month. You need about 5.3 clients a month to do it. And clients needed at the targets, 384. Client gap, 132. Cost per new client, for Medicaid, it's pretty low. I'm usually seeing it around 1,200. So LTGP to CAC, if you haven't watched the last video, aligns with that. It's about 13 to 1. So again, put this into, I'll just keep it at that, 13 to 1. Just to put that into context, that means if you spent, let's say $7,000 in ad budget, right? And let's just say you spent another $7,000 paying your agency that you worked with because you're not going to learn the skill yourself because you're already making too much money. It's not like it's a higher, you're either paying with time and opportunity cost or you're paying with money. And if you're an agency that's already doing 3 to 10 million a year or more, you have the money. So it makes more sense to not bootstrap it, just find somebody that already knows what they're doing and pay them, versus bootstrapping it, taking a year to figure it out. Because even if you do figure it out in a year, you've lost a year. Where from that extra revenue you could have made in that year, the gross profit would have paid for that marketer 10 times over or 3 times over or whatever. So monthly ad budget needed in this case, let's say it doubles $14,000 because $7,000 goes to his agency, $7,000 goes to the ad budget. This means that LTGP to CAC, you're putting $1 in, and at the end of 3 years, getting $13 back. That means that year one, it's a third of that. So what's that? 4.3. It's a 330% return, right? 4.3x. If I'm doing my math right. Wild. Good stuff. Okay. So that's that math. Let's do a veterans campaign, because veterans is my favorite because it's the highest returns. So let's look at hours per week. Usually we see it's about 10 in this case. Hourly rate, usually it's highest private pay, let's just say 36. Gross profit, highest private pay, usually 50%. And years they stay, we're going to say conservatively 3 years, could be more. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, a lot of our clients aren't running just one payer type. If they can accept veterans, they also have private pay. If they can accept Medicaid, they also can accept private pay, sometimes all three. So really, if you were to find your true ceiling, you would need a calculator that expresses all three with your referral cap and so on and so forth. Which, if you're interested in that, let me know. I can make a new calculator and share that video. But in this case, we'd be looking at, let's say, yeah, that looks about right, 8 referrals a month from the VA. 56,000 LTV per client. Clients at the ceiling is 288 if you had a purely VA agency, which I haven't met anybody that has a VA only agency. Pretty rare. So rare, I haven't met one out of 250 agencies I've talked to. So referral ceiling would be annual revenue about 5.4 million. Weekly billable hours would top out about 2,880, and gross profit at ceiling would be about 2.7 million. So this is what it would look like per year. You can see the big stall happens around year 6 in this case. If you wanted to get to 10 million, pretty common goal, and it would take you, let's say, roughly 3 years to get it. Then you would need an additional 10.7 clients a month from paid ads, be about 13,000 in ad budget, and if you're paying an agency, call that 26,000, probably less, because once you're spending more than depends on how you get it worked out with your agency, right? Like there's agency models that do flat rate, where it's like, hey, you can purchase this amount of leads or purchase this outcome, and then we'll just essentially work with you until you do. There's other agencies that do a flat rate, and then in addition you'll use your ad spend. So yeah, it really just depends on who you're working with, what the offer is, all that fun stuff. But all that to say, let's say CAC altogether, let's say it's 1,200 from ad budget, but then it's 2,500 with agency fees. So that would mean that essentially you need 10.7 clients a month, same. You're paying 2,500 to acquire a client. If you don't know how I calculated this, just go into my last video where I go over it. And LTGP to CAC, let's say it's 11:1. Like in the other example I gave, it's 1,200, so 23:1. It's pretty wild. So that would mean in this case, I think in the last video it was 22.1 to 1. So at this point, it's you're putting $1 in, and 3 years later you're getting $22 out, which means year one you're putting in $1 and you're getting, once they've run their course, $7. It's wild. Which is why, like I said before, we were going to start a home care agency. I think that's it. If this was helpful, feel free to like the video. Let me know if you would want to use this calculator. If there's interest, I'll drop it into the comments below or even the description, and you guys can play with it yourself. And if you are looking for help growing your home care agency because you're at a referral ceiling, you can go to the description below, click the link to book your agency growth call with us, see if you qualify, and if you do, we'll see if we can help you grow to whatever goal you might have. All right. Hopefully this was helpful. I think we're done with those. I planned on 3 videos, but the first video was so long that I think I covered everything from the first video and this from the second video in the first video, and then we just did that one. So I think we're good to go. I think we're finished. Cool. We're rocking and rolling. All right, if you did happen to watch this live and you got to the very end, I'm curious. Number one, did you skip right to the end? Let me know in the comments. What was the most valuable part for you? Because the reason I ask is a lot of this content I make, I'm basing it off of the 200 plus conversations I've had with home care agencies ranging from the $1 to $10 million mark. But I don't assume I know the right answers. So if there is something specific you want me to cover or questions that you just have, whether you plan on working with us or not, just please let me know and I will do my best to answer it and help you grow your agency, even from afar. All right. I will see you guys soon. Enjoy, and that's it. Bye.